I couldn't tell you exactly the date, but around the time of April, March of 2021, I started getting serious about trying to find answers. Answers to what, you might ask? Well, if you watch the last two videos in this Come Back to God series that I'm filming, you'll understand a little bit more of the context and the story. So if you haven't seen it, go back and watch those so you understand the full picture, and also so you don't miss out on anything else of this wealth of wisdom that I'm giving you guys here today. Regardless though, I was looking for answers. I was trying to find out for myself if I had been forgiven for my sins. Now, what sins did I have? I had a lot of addictions. I had a lot of problems that I had accumulated from high school that just, I honestly didn't close the doors of. And so I was serious and I started asking myself the questions. Have you yet forgiven me for my sins? Have you forgiven me for the things that I've done wrong? And I know that Jesus Christ forgives us for everything that we do. He forgives us regardless of who we are and what we did, right? He forgives us. Doesn't matter how big the sin is. That's the beauty of the atonement. But it doesn't mean we don't have to go through the work to know for ourselves that we have been forgiven or that we can move on. Because the hard part is, as humans, we tend to dwell on some of our darkest times. And so I started to pray. And I asked that very question, God, have you forgiven me for what I have done? And the first thought that came to my mind was very simple, yes. But then following that thought was a feeling of doubt, or the second thought, which was, no, I've not been forgiven yet. And so you got to ask yourself, and it's really difficult. I think we've all struggled with this. There's a reason why you clicked on this video, obviously. How do I know if the answers coming from my prayers are from God or me, or maybe in this story, honestly, very rarely is it from actually you yourself. There's a good chance it's probably coming from the devil. So here's my theory. I do believe that there is a scientific answer and explanation. So now ask yourself, when you have prayed, say you have prayed, in my case, when I had prayed, when I had prayed and I had asked God, have I been forgiven? That first thought kind of felt like it was coming from the front of my mind, the forefront of my brain. It kind of felt like it was coming from there. It was just this idea. It was like, it's right in the front. And then the second thought felt like it was kind of in the back. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where, but it was like in the back, maybe inside of my brain. Kind of a weird thought, kind of the subconscious mind. It's the only way I can explain it. And so I started doing some research. And I'm like, well, what parts of the brain? I know this is the frontal lobe, but what parts of the brain is this subconscious piece, these second thoughts coming from? I started looking and studying the brain. What does the brain do? What is the systematic results of each individual part or segment? And here's what I've developed. When you pray, you receive two thoughts. The first thought is what I've determined is the spirit. It is usually the right answer. The first thought is always the right answer. You kind of feel it. It's a gut thing almost, but it's right in the front of your brain. It's right there in your face. It is a first thought. It's calm, it's clear. Like I said, it's at the front of your mind. Now the second thought comes swiftly right after. The second thought comes from Satan, which I believe is, he taps into the natural side of the brain, the primal side of the brain, using your survival instincts to control you, because God is about choice and agency, and Satan is about removing agency and choice. That's the whole point. So when you get that second thought, you'll notice a couple things. Doubt is the number one thing, right? Usually it's doubt. You doubt the first response. And sometimes there's fear. It's loud, it's anxious, it's definitely from the deeper part of the brain, but I determined that that is from the amygdala or the limbic system. We know that the scriptures say that the Spirit speaks quick and simple. It's very simple. And we know that the devil uses fear. It only all kind of matches up. He uses habit, he uses survival instincts. So here's the key. Act on the first thought that comes to your mind. And you'll always be acting on the thoughts from God, or the impression, the revelation from God. Now, I created this diagram here you guys can see. I'll show you guys all the notes that I took at the end of this video, and you guys can screenshot it and use it for whatever you need. But basically, this diagram shows you the first thought, the second thought, the parts of the brain that they use. You can use this picture, you can screenshot it, save it, do whatever you can with it. But just to let you guys know, the frontal lobe has a couple of processing things, and it really helps you to understand how God answers your prayers and how you can utilize the answers from God. So the number one thing is it's decision making and reasoning. That's what the frontal lobe's all about. It's about decision making. So God, obviously, he's going to place you within a position where you have to make a decision on your own. Like I said, he gives you agency so that you can act for yourself. We're all being tested. That only makes sense. The next thing that the frontal lobe does, it's planning and it's goal setting. All so far, very good and wholesome, holy things. The next part, self-discipline and impulse regulation. Literally, impulse regulation, it's keeping us from being controlled by our natural brain, by our primal instinct. Next, it's voluntary movement. It's all up to you. Literally, the frontal lobe is everything up to you. It's personality, it's social behavior. And now here's a cool thing, because I was a missionary and we always talked about this. We'd pray every single morning and ask God, please loosen my tongue, right? Because you hear about in the scriptures how they speak as though it's coming from God themselves. They don't know where these things are coming from, right? The same thing would happen to me on my mission. And what you find is that the frontal lobe actually is about speech production. Doesn't it make sense that if you pray to God, and if God can help you speak clearly or say certain things, and you're like, where's this even coming from? Doesn't it make sense that God would be using the frontal lobe to communicate to his people, to his children via you? So we can tap into that through the power of God, through the power of prayer. Now, and that's typically usually the left side of the frontal lobe, because the brain is split into two. The left side is the more analytical thinking side. The right side is the more creative thinking side. Now I want to go to the second thought, doubt and fear, which comes from the amygdala or the limbic system. It acts kind of like an alarm. It's loud, it's obnoxious, it's kind of signaling that you are maybe in danger, right? It triggers fear, it triggers stress. It also triggers anger. So when you think about it, and when something comes up on the media and it makes you really angry, or someone says something that is true, right? We've all seen it where someone will just straight up, if someone were to call you fat, I mean, it might be true and you're gonna be very angry about it. If someone called me fat, I'm a skinny guy, I'm like gonna be like, actually, that's kind of a compliment because I'm trying to gain weight, right? So it's the truth, right? If you are angry by the truth, it's clear that it is of the devil. It only makes sense, so, right? If you're angry when someone says something, or like the Pharisees, when Christ would call them out and he would rebuke them, they would be angry with them. They were prideful. Pride, everything like that, it comes from the amygdala and the limbic system. It's also the fight or flight response. It's really what removes control from your body. It's what removes agency. It's the only thing in our brain that removes agency out of survival. Okay, next, it stores emotion, okay? This is the craziest thing to me. It stores emotion and or memories, right? So this is like, if you have a hard time forgiving someone, Christ always teaches forgive people. That's all he teaches. And so if you're struggling, if you can't forgive something, you can't forget something, leave it behind in the past. Don't you think that'd be something Satan would love? Right? Is if you can't relieve yourself of guilt or sin or shame. Next, it reacts before rational thought and fast. It's automatic, it's exaggerated. Oftentimes, things will happen, right? And we react in ways that are exaggerated. And when we think back on it, we're like, why did I do that? Why did I react that way? It's clearly of Satan. It's to cause contention. It's to cause issues. Satan only wants to be miserable like unto himself. That's why he uses the natural side of the brain. This is everything we talk about in self-improvement. It's like, why can't I be motivated? Why can't I get things done? It's clear that Satan targets this part of the brain because he knows that's where you're gonna have the least amount of control. When you're depressed, when you're stressed, when you have anxiety, and you are clinically diagnosed with these things, do you not think it's some sort of possession that Satan is utilizing, the side of the brain that will keep you the most bound? Next, the amygdala and the limbic system will also, its main goal is just to keep you safe. Like I said, it's the survival side of the brain. It's there to keep you safe, right? Comfortable. Sometimes, and I'm gonna say safe, right? In quotations. It's there to keep you from growing. Doesn't that sound anti-God? Again, it literally does. It all makes sense, right? When you think about the processing of the brain and how Satan or God communicate to it. It also removes agency or decision making, like I've talked about. Now, sometimes we were a little quick and we react based off of the answer we get immediately, okay, or the impression that we get, because God also speaks to us via impression. How do you find out if the decision you made was the right decision after you made the decision? Well, think. The scripture says, by their fruits you shall know them. Now, it's using this as an example to determine if someone is a false prophet or not. By their fruits you shall know them. Did the action bear fruit that was good or evil? Was this good? Ask yourself that. Was this good? Did it do something good for me? Or was the result bad or negative? If you can answer those questions, you'll have a pretty clear identity to attach to the results. Now, I want to say this because when I prayed that one wholesome and humble night, and I asked God, have I been forgiven? I did this several times because the first answer was always yes. It's so simple and plain. And the second answer was always no. Well, I also had an impression that was attached to that second answer, and it was doubt on the first answer. No, God didn't say that. God didn't say that. Satan would pose to be God in my mind using the most primal side of my brain. And I would then maybe get to a point, maybe that was my own thought. Oh, this wasn't God, this wasn't Satan, that was my own thought. That was me. And then I would get to this other point. This is the third step in this Satan cycle, right? Well, that's what we'll call it, a little funny name, but the third step in that was, then I automatically started to assume that God didn't answer my prayers or that he wasn't hearing me. That's crazy, that's hard to digest. But to think that God wasn't hearing me or answering my prayers. The answer is, and the truth is, ask and ye shall receive. God always answers your prayers. It is a promise that he has given us in the scriptures. He always answers our prayers. Now, there are other things that go into it, like, are you actually listening? Are you open enough? Are you humble enough? Are you holding yourself back from receiving these answers? Are you the one holding yourself back? And oftentimes it's us to blame. God will always answer our prayers. I love the story of Jim Carrey. I don't know how religious he is, but he did share a story about when he was a kid, he was reading in the scriptures. And he really wanted a bike at this time, but he was reading the scriptures. And the scripture said, ask and ye shall receive. Very simple, very plain. Just how God communicates, just his style. So Jim Carrey then finishes reading these scriptures and he realizes, he thinks about this bike he's been wanting for the longest time. He can't afford a bike. He's wanted a bike for so long. He's just a simple kid with simple pleasures. So he prays and he asks God, he says, Heavenly Father, God, can you give me a bicycle? And then he closes that prayer. Obviously the bike didn't show up immediately, right? Because I'm saying that answers do come immediately, but things don't. Results don't come immediately. So you got to do the work, or you got to put yourself in the position to receive those answers. And in just a couple of weeks, I think it was about 2 weeks, I can't remember exactly how long it was, apparently his friend had entered into a raffle and he had won a bicycle. Now his friend's like, well, I already have a bike. I guess I'll give it to my friend Jim. So he gives it to his friend Jim, and Jim knew exactly who that bike was from. He knew that it was because of a simple prayer where he asked God, he was able to receive that bicycle. Now think, what is the application on that? When you ask, God literally gives you everything you need. When you ask, God literally gives you everything you ask for. It could be negative for us, it could be really positive for us. But because he is our Father who loves us so deeply, he will do it. Now, obviously, you don't want to utilize this and treat God like a vending machine. He's not that way. Sometimes when you ask, it has to come from a very humble, wholesome place. It's got to come from a place where you really desire this thing. And a child's desires for like a bicycle, it's so simple, so plain, so humble, comes from such a holy place. Think about that. Answers come instantly. Things and results come over time. Now, just as I promised, here are my notes right here. You guys can screenshot this. You can use my notes for whatever you want. This is my theory. It feels to be pretty true. I feel that the Spirit has confirmed it to me. I don't know if it's confirmed it to you, but I know that regardless, the things that I've said will bless you, regardless of if my ideas or my theories are all correct, right? I promise you that the basic ideas and principles that I've shared are true, and they will help you to discern your ideas as though they came from God or from Satan or even from yourself. And just in closing, I want to invite you guys to do one thing. Get yourself a journal. That's where I wrote all my notes. I use a journal all the time. I leave it open. I always have a pen with me. And as I do this, I receive impressions, thoughts, and revelation frequently. It is always a flowing stream of godly inspiration. Do that and you'll become very well acclimated to how God communicates and how he speaks to you. My name is Gabriel Bowman. Thank you guys for watching this video. This is my series called Come Back to God. If you guys feel like this really blessed you or helped you, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And comment down below yes if you want to see the last video of this installment. Otherwise, I've got plenty more to be posting and I will be moving on. Now, if you haven't watched other videos, again, go in the playlist section on my YouTube channel and you will find it. It's the Come Back to God series. You will not regret it, I promise. But without further ado, I'm gonna leave you guys to it. I post every Monday just like this at 9 p.m. I post every Monday just like this at 9 a.m. I'll see you next Monday. See ya.